This is an R Media podcast.
This episode is made in partnership with Wounded Heroes Australia, the only 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis service that helps veterans and their families in their hardest moments. This episode is supported by Vixen, Australian-made skincare powered by plant cell technology and designed to bring real simplicity back to skincare. Hey, Sarah, just calling to say I'm really looking forward to seeing you again soon. And I've been thinking about some things that we can do when you're next down in Sydney. Have you been to Wendy's Secret Garden in Lavender Bay? If you haven't, I'm going to take you there and I'm going to tell you all about the fantastic chat that I just had with her, not just about the garden, but about Brett Whiteley. You're going to get a real kick out of it. Anyway, I'll speak to you really soon, my love, and I love you. Bye. At an artist studio in Surrey Hills, there's a wicker chair that no one's allowed to sit in. It belonged to a man who died in 1992. The paint splatters that are on the floor surrounding this chair were carefully preserved during a 2-year renovation, so that when the doors reopened, it would look as vibrant as when the artist was last there. Now, the woman who made sure of that isn't the artist himself. She's his ex-wife. Wendy Whiteley is the woman who raised both her and Brett Whiteley's child. She's the one who nursed her own grief for Brett and 9 years later for their daughter Arkie in a garden that she created with her bare hands. And she's a woman who more than 30 years after their marriage ended and over 3 decades since Brett's death, still calls herself the keeper of his spirit. Today, Wendy's joining us to talk about what it means to love someone through addiction, through loss, through fame, through divorce, and to reveal what's left of that love and what's new in it when you're the one who's still here.
So real love, admiration, and when I say real love, I mean that's balanced by a lot of things. Mm-hmm. You can love somebody intensely, you can also hate them intensely. Mm. And I'm a very firm believer in exactly that situation, in duality, for example. And I think Brett certainly was interested in duality, that you don't feel intense love without the capacity to feel also intense hatred. Yeah. And you have to know how to, deal with those things, really.
I'm Tiffany Dunk from the Australian Women's Weekly, and this is Love Stories. Wendy, thank you so much for joining us here on Love Stories. I'm so thrilled to have you with us.
Well, I'm very thrilled to be here. It's a brand new experience, my first podcast.
Is it? Oh, I feel incredibly honoured.
Well, I don't know, maybe you're lucky or unlucky, we'll see.
I've got my fingers firmly crossed. Yeah. We talk a lot about love languages on this show, and I don't know if that's something you've ever thought about or discussed. I'd love to know, what is your particular love language? How do you like to show or express your love?
Oh, my God, what a question. Is it L-O-V-E or L-U-V love?
Oh, L-O-V-E always.
Oh, right, okay. They are different, aren't they? I think. Physical expression, like stroking somebody's face or getting up. You only get quite close into somebody else's space of somebody you like, I think. I think with people you are wary of or you're not sure of even or you don't like, you try and keep a physical distance. So,
my next question I'd love to ask you is, what did love look like for you as a young girl? When you were growing up, what did love look like in your home?
What did love look like? Well, I suppose it looked mostly like my mother doing stuff for my sister and I. And then my mother remarried and had 2 more children. Mm-hmm. So she had to spread out her love capacity a long way. And then when she wanted to get away from us, she went out and gardened. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something I've picked up from her. And in a way that was an expression of love, but for us, but it was also something for herself. So it was loving herself enough to be able to take a moment and just get away from the demands of, can I have this? Will you cook that? What time am I going there? I mean, I spent quite a long time of my childhood wanting to run away. So,
Really?
until one day my mother helped me pack. And I got to the corner of a street in Linfield and she waved me goodbye. I got to the corner and then I thought, where am I going to go now?
What age were you?
About 12.
Oh, my gosh, that's hilarious.
12, 13, that one.
Yeah.
But I'd tried it before.
Yeah.
And I was quite competitive for attention from my young sister after my mother and father divorced.
Mm-hmm.
The usual, with the divorce thing. I had a kind of vacant space there for a while, so I was competitive. And I was never very kind to my stepfather. Okay. I refused to. So, there was love, but it was differentiated in different levels. Mm-hmm. For my sister, I had love, but I was competitive for attention. Mm-hmm. I used to try and lose her. I used to not pick her up from kindergarten, which was my responsibility.
Yeah, that's relatable. As someone with a younger sibling, I can attest to that. Love my brother, my favourite person in the whole world, but when we were little, my goodness, so irritating.
Yeah, and maybe that stays for the rest of your life with sisters, I think.
Yeah, right.
In a way. There's always that. I mean, certainly when you grow up, because then I had a stepsister, but there was 14, 15 years difference between us, so I didn't really know her until I was adult.
Yeah. And
Cara, my sister's had a stepsister, or she hates it when I call her a stepsister. My other sister, younger sister, had a very successful career, and people say to me, oh, you're her sister. Which is a reversal of my other sister, because people keep saying to her, oh, you're Wendy's sister, and she gets really pissed off about that. But each of us love each other in a way that, family, people say that. But then I do have members of my family that I have divorced.
Right.
I just don't want to see them anymore.
Yeah.
We have nothing in common. It's just boring,
Yeah.
And then I left very young with Brett, of course.
Yeah,
so
take me through the day you met Brett. What can you tell me about how the two of you met?
Well, a friend of his called Tony took me out on a date, and the date was to go and meet this friend of his who was also interested in the arts, because I was, I was interested in the arts. So he drove me to Longueville and we met Brett. Mm-hmm. And that was the end of Tony. No, literally.
Yeah. What was it about Brett that drew you in so very quickly?
He's an extraordinary character.
Yeah.
In his own right. I wouldn't say it was like a physical attraction at first, because he's very unusual. Certainly he had it for me, but it just tumbled into itself, really. Certainly our interest in the arts was the important factor, and it just took off from there.
Wow. You became his model and his muse very early on, and I'm curious what that felt like to be looked at that closely by someone who loved you and equally who you loved. Like, what did that feel like?
To be looked at? Well, we looked at anyway, aren't you, in an intimate relationship?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it. You see each other and you get very comfortable with each other's bodies and things like that.
Yeah.
But to be actually then transposed onto a canvas is just part of the job.
Did you find it made you look at yourself differently? Because I think a lot of people, when they sit for portraits, will say, oh, I didn't know I looked like that, or you've captured something in me that I didn't know was there. Did you ever get that feeling?
I don't like self-portraits of me. I mean, I don't like portraits of me.
Huh.
Except for the ones that are the Brett has made, and I don't like any of the ones that other people have made. Right. Well, that's not true. It's not that I don't like me looking at me.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. It's like looking at yourself in the mirror sometimes.
Yeah,
or seeing
I could do without that too, actually, at my age. I go, oh, God, it's a bit of a shock. The important thing was intellectual with Brett and I, really. Our interests and things. Yeah. And all the other things came with it. But, I mean, it was that kind of relationship. And we both left very young and went to Europe, and that's where we got our arts education, because I went to art school here, the one that's now called the National Art School, briefly, for about a year, I think. And then Brett never went to art school because his dad said, because he ran away from Scott's Bathurst, and his dad said he had to get a job. He had to get a shingle, his dad said. His dad Clem came from Bradford.
Yeah.
A real working class, hard-working family that came to Australia. So getting a shingle was very important. Oddly enough, we were just on the cusp of artists becoming famous and making a lot of money.
Yeah.
But starving in the garret was the style
Yeah.
that one expected for a while. And we lived very sparsely for the first couple of years of our time in England, or in Italy where Brett had a scholarship. It was fine, but it was one room, one room in a lovely old house in Florence with a tiny little cupboard that you had to sit on the loo and the shower came on top of you. It was owned by a penniless aristocratic family in Florence, and it was, who cares? We got a Vespa and went everywhere on Vespa, and I walked to the shops and learnt Italian, and he painted in the one room, and we got a hamster to be a pet. And the hamster got in the bed one night, and I woke up thinking I had a rat. I had this little thing crawling around my feet, this little furry object. Oh, no. I think I levitated, out of the bed. Anyway, that hamster came, Nancy she was called.
Nancy.
She lived in a drawer. She was our pet. So we always accumulated pets, Brett and I.
Well, you got married so young. I know 20 probably at that time didn't seem young. In a modern day world, 20 feels very young.
I think I was 21 or something.
21? So.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not quite sure why we got married. Actually, I do know why we got married. Because we'd been together quite a while, and I was working at Harvey Nichols' little shop, the boutique, and I'd done quite well. I started off as a sales girl and got elevated quite quickly simply because I hate working unless I'm doing a really good job,
Would you say you're a perfectionist?
I don't see much point in working and doing a bad job and being bored and being resentful about having to work at all. I just, that's... So I got noticed and got elevated to, sub-buyer and taken under the wing of the woman that ran the boutique. But so I was going from Ladbroke Grove in a room and a half with Brett, with Michael Johnson, a friend of ours, 2 floors down underneath, and he was on his own at that stage. We had absolutely no money, and Brett was painting in the room there where we slept, and then there was another room with a kitchen, and we shared a bathroom up another flight of stairs. It was real slum living, but it was thrilling, except that I got on the 52 bus looking kind of dressed up for working at Harvey Nichols. And I'd come home to this unbelievable hippie mess. No, never hippie. Shouldn't say hippie because we were not hippies. We were bohemians.
Yes.
Not hippies.
Yeah.
But so then his mother, Beryl, invited me to go to New York where she was living at the time. And her lover or companion or partner, even though he wasn't his partner because he was married, but she could only see him in the daytime and she wanted company for the evening. So I said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. So I left Harvey Nichols and went to New York where I could do what I liked in the day. And in the evening, I'd probably have to go to a musical or something, which I thought, oh, God, I hate musicals. But I did actually get to quite like musicals because I saw some great ones in New York because Beryl's Geo would buy a couple of tickets, and I got taken to a lot of expensive restaurants, but then they'd go off and I'd go off somewhere else, and I had a great time.
Wow.
So then it kind of went from 1 month to 2 months, and Brett got a bit worried that I might have been on my way out of the relationship.
Did you think you were at that point, or?
I didn't think about it. I was just having a good time.
Yeah.
When he left, he wanted me. He was writing desperate letters about why I wasn't writing to him. When I got back, he was desperate to get married.
Yeah. What do you think you knew about love at that point? Or is there something you wish you could go and tell 20 or 21-year-old Wendy now about love?
I don't know. There's people who have a sensible idea about love. Mine is much more dangerous in the sense that I'm attracted to people that are probably not great people to be in love with, in love. That maybe that kind of in-loveness for people, it is dangerous because they're often, and maybe that includes me as well, that's passionate and it's very, closely tied, but it's also fearful about commitment and going into a nice level life, the good life. I think I was pretty addicted to experience and I wanted to know what was going on everywhere all at once, if possible. And we were both like that. With Brett and I, that developed into a kind of argument about freedom, and that went into dangerous areas as well for both of us and for other people involved,
In what way?
Well, he had very brief one-night stands or things, and I objected, and then we'd go on arguing about it. He'd say it meant nothing, and, what was I complaining about? And I said, well, what if I do it? No, he didn't like that at all. But I did do it.
Right.
Not one-night stands, more serious than that, which really upset him. And then we experimented with drugs and things. I mean, that kind of love is different to the kind of love that I know that people who have a really good level companionship, everybody's pulling their weight in one direction or another. I certainly, I had a lot to do in that relationship. I was supporting all the normal day activities and cleaning up after Brett. Not cleaning up so much, but just being part of that. And it's not, when you're living in one room, it's very difficult because, we went from, in London, we went from 1.5 rooms in the slums, and we then progressed, though, to a kind of 2-bedroom flat up the hill in Notting Hill rather than down the bottom of Ladbroke Grove. And that was good because he had a separate room and life was easier. And then we moved to Melbury Road, which was a huge studio that once was owned by Holman Hunt, the pre-Raphaelite painter that did that goat tied to a string in the... I'm not all that madly keen on the pre-Raphaelites, but as painters, but they were an extraordinary group.
And the history that must have been embedded in those walls.
And they built big houses around Holland Park, which was like the country when they did it. It was kind of out of the thing. So they built these great big houses with great big Victorian studios. And so we just got the studio, not the house. The house next door was run like a block of flats, I suppose, but almost a boarding house. And that had Clive James used to live there, and a few Australians lived there. Clive James wrote in his memoirs about Brett and I living next door. He called me Delish, and he called Brett something weird because he disguised the names, but that was obvious who we were. And that memoir of his is fascinating. It's wonderful. Such a laugh.
Coming up, how the arrival of Arkie transformed Wendy and Brett's relationship. I'll see you in a bit. Confession time, guys. I'm really lazy when it comes to my skincare routine. To be honest, I'm lucky if I remember to wash my face at night and don't even go into applying all those different steps of toners, serums, creams, all the different things. It's why Vixen's all-in-one moisturiser was such a game changer for me when I came across it last year. Just one step, done. But I found a new secret weapon and it's become just as easy to add into my lazy girl routine. Vixen's Shake to Activate Super Vita Serum is lightweight, it smells divine, and it's really good for hydration. And I've got super dry skin, so that's been really great for me. All you need to do is just shake the bottle, apply a couple of drops to your face, and then whack on that moisturiser. And literally, what could be simpler than that? I'll let you in on another secret. If you go to vixen.com.au to purchase now, just add in the code LOVESTORIES. That's Love Stories, all one word, at checkout and you'll get an extra 30% off. You're welcome. At what point did Arkie come along?
Arkie came along at that point.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
How did having a child, again, shift the relationship between the two of you, or the love that you had for each other? How did that shift with adding Arkie into the mix?
I think it brought quite a big shift, actually. Brett absolutely adored Arkie. I think he got a bit scared.
Scared of?
And I think a lot of men do. Who differ to the men that really, really want children. I don't know that he really wanted children. And I did. I really wanted a child. I didn't want lots of children because we were gypsying still a bit. We were still kind of living the bohemian life.
Yeah.
We didn't own anything. We didn't even own a car.
Yeah.
You know, we did everything by cab or bus or something or other, or just walking down the road.
Yeah.
You know, having a child, I loved it. And Brett quite liked taking Arkie for a walk. He didn't like the confines of not being able to suddenly go out because we either had to get a babysitter. And his mother, Beryl, was quite competitive about where we were going. She wanted to come too. Definitely wanted to come too. So, you know, if we were invited to an opening or something, you couldn't ask Beryl to be a babysitter. No way. She'd want to go to the opening, you know. There's no way she was going to be a babysitter. So we got babysitters. But that was an odd kind of a thing that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was odd. And that was, of course, that was all after I'd been in New York. But so then wherever we went, Arkie came too. And then we added a couple of dogs,
Wonderful.
2 little Yorkshire Terriers, and they all came too. And it was great in many ways. But I always think Brett got a bit worried, you know, about... He insisted on it. He was incredibly possessive. I don't know. It's kind of like old-fashioned, I think.
Yeah.
I think, you know, with all the kind of bohemian behaviour, he was quite old-fashioned. He was also very insecure because his mother had pissed off.
Do you think so?
Or
Do you
left, I
think
shouldn't
it
say
was
pissed off.
that he got possessive over you and your attention being diverted to a child? Yeah, I think that's quite common with, well, certainly men of that generation.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
With a baby,
Yeah,
certainly.
yeah.
Suddenly you're not the young lover. You're a mother, and your attention is very diverted to that and away from you.
Yeah, that's interesting. You spoke before about obviously dabbling in drugs and addiction played a huge part within your marriage. For people who might not have heard you speak about this before, can you tell us a little bit about how that played out in the relationship between the two of you?
Oh, well, it was part of the relationship for sure. But, I mean, dabbling in drugs was, you know, we were in London for the whole of the 60s. And then we went to New York at the end of that. So it was an era where everybody was dabbling in drugs for the first time. Mostly it was grass pot. To start with, and then Vietnam happened, and with Vietnam the drugs came out of Asia and went everywhere, including Australia, the harder drugs, I mean.
Yeah.
And so people were dabbling, and we were not dabbling in heroin in the 60s, and we weren't dabbling in heroin until Australia, actually, until we came back. So, you know, dabbling in drugs was alcohol. One of the people that spoke, Greg Waite, who was a photographer and took a lot of photographs of Brett and me and other people in the Sydney art scene, said Brett was the most charismatic person he'd ever met. And I think he almost is the most charismatic person I've ever met, which made him kind of hard to give up in a way. I always said he could make me laugh, and that was very important. But I've heard other women say that about their husbands. They'll forgive them anything if they can, if you can get a laugh out of it. Even the most appalling behaviour. I mean, he could perform a scene and I would just laugh. And, you know, But there comes a point with addiction where you have to stop forgiving each other and get away.
Yeah.
You suddenly find yourself addicted before you know what's happening.
Yeah. So how long did that period last for you, Wendy?
Well, it was on and off. I mean, we'd give it up and then, go back again. Over a period of about 12 years, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then I started going away. We went away once together to London and went to a treatment centre called Broadway Lodge in Weston-super-Mare. And we were both there at the same time. I went there 4 days before and he came 4 days later because they had this theory that couples shouldn't be there together. And after we had been together and both of us got our medals after a 6-week program and we were both using again 4 days later, basically, they thought they shouldn't have couples anymore at Broadway Lodge. And oddly enough, I ended up back in Weston-super-Mare years later doing a 6-month stint in a halfway house, which was very beneficial for me, but Brett wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
He would never go back again to that. He'd go to detox units sometimes and we'd often go away on trips to the country to a motel and come down in a motel and feel horrible and throw up and do all of those things one does. It doesn't last that long coming off, but it's a horrible journey. Waking up feeling really bad. You don't realise the aftermath of any kind of addiction. It goes on much longer than just detoxing.
Yeah.
You've got depression and you don't feel physically very well, and so that's the bit that's hard.
Yeah.
To deal with. To get through that, you start to be on the road, to recovery if you don't relapse at those points.
Yeah.
Because you just think life is going to be too hard without it.
So what tipped you into not going back for that final time? Like, what was it, do you think?
I think it's all about practice. I think it's all about in the day. I think that the AANA kind of thing about living in the day and practicing doing what you're supposed to do, which is not using drugs or alcohol, that's a good start of the day.
Yeah.
But the theory's the same all the way through, and God grant me the serenity to that pair is extraordinary. It just suddenly clicks and make a lot of sense. When I first started going, I thought, oh, it's all religious and, and it's awful. But then you start actually listening to the people talking that have been around for a long time, and it doesn't matter what they were on before. And that's also a principle of that whole theory. It doesn't matter what you use. You just are an addict in some way, an alcoholic or an addict, same thing. And this is about trying to stop it. And you suddenly realise it is the most awful slavery. It's dependent, you're dependent. And, of course, during your life you're dependent. And then, of course, Brett and I as addicts, were diagnosed as being codependent. So we got stuck with that. And that was something I had to actually come to terms with and deal with and go, no, finally, if you're going to go on using, we can't be together. I can't. I tried it once. I came back from London once and he met me in India, actually, in Bombay. And he was off his face, and I realised he was using. And instead of doing something sensible, which was get back on the plane, go back to London, I thought, oh, no, I've been clean for a year. I could go home and I'll get him clean. Well, that's a stupid idea. And that didn't work. And 6 months later, I don't blame him. I blame myself for being dumb enough not to, or I don't know. I started using again. So then I went back again, and this time it was absolute.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Was I going to go back into that kind of a relationship.
Yeah. Well, you've got your love for yourself had to outweigh your love for...
Well, it was just one, I don't know about love for myself. It was just, I suppose we're doing a thing on love. But
yeah. Well, more like to protect yourself.
I was sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like repetition. I don't particularly like repetition in my life. Mm-hmm. I like having a project. Like I've just been doing one for the studio and I've loved it. I'm working again, And before I did the garden, I I was working, and it was fantastic for me
Yeah.
in recovery, and also in the separation from Brett. And Arkie was in London, all this kind of stuff. And I went back to London, and I bought an apartment in London at the top of the hill in Ladbroke Grove, looking over the church. And Arkie bought the one downstairs in the basement. And we re-established a relationship, which had been shaky, during the years. She was in London a lot because she went to drama school in London. And I think she was quite glad to get away from being the daughter of and becoming Arkie Whiteley under her own auspices. And she did very well at that. Very well. We were really proud of her. But, she didn't want to hang around us. Well, she worried about us, of course, both of us.
Yeah.
And then when she split up, she was, I don't know, she didn't really know. I mean, her life was altered by Brett's death more than anything.
Yeah. Well,
and basically having to come back to Australia whether she wanted to or not.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, if you're comfortable talking about it, ask you about how you found out that Brett had passed and what that felt
How
like.
did I find out? Oh, some policeman arrived at the door. Yeah, just said he was dead. I said at the time I went into shock, but I wasn't surprised because I knew what he was doing.
Then how did you, I guess, then channel that grief? So you said you weren't surprised, but still there must have been an immense sense of loss and grief.
Of course there was.
Yeah. How did you channel that? And also, I guess, caring for your daughter and her grief throughout it as well. Like, how did you channel it? Where did you?
Well, I'd started doing the garden before all of this. When I was just being me.
Yeah.
Arkie was being Arkie in London, and I was being Wendy Whiteley, who was not at that stage the wife of Brett Whiteley or the muse or whatever. I was just being me, and I've turned myself into a gardener.
Yeah.
And I keep still say I'm a gardener.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's your shingle.
That is my shingle. But unfortunately, I'd have to take it down because the knees don't work in the garden. I go down. I'm 85. Am I? Yeah, I'm 85. And the knees. It's partly my fault because I'm not very good at exercise.
Well, I would
The
argue
idea
that
of doing
gardening's immense exercise. That's what I like to tell myself anyway.
Do you do exercise?
I do gardening. So therefore I
gardening?
exercise, yes.
And that was great exercise.
Yeah.
But I got sick. I got pneumonia and I got all kinds of things. I gave up smoking when I felt I had a fall. No, I didn't have a fall. I did not have a fall. I fell over.
Thank you.
Yes. It is like I don't know what it is, like a jinx to have a fall.
Yeah.
And I had to be in hospital, and I did discover that I had real problems with my lungs. I had, so that was a sojourn in St. Vincent's Private, looking out of the window one day, dying for a cigarette, and seeing all the poor mad addicts out there with their tubes and wheeling their things, to rush out. And I just didn't have the strength to go down the hall, pushing the trolley and get in the elevator and go out. So I didn't do it, and I didn't do it. Exactly this day at a time thing took over. Yeah. It was like an epiphany because I have no memory of feeling bad about cigarettes. It is true that I was probably on some kind of drug thing in the hospital that they were administering, I don't ever go anywhere near anything with codeine or anything in it.
Yeah.
And they're aware of that. They're always aware of that in hospital. Though if I needed to have morphine, I'd have it quick as a shot, But especially at my age, I'm not going to turn into an addict, for morphine at my age. But as for a long time, I've been clean and sober, as they say, for 40 years or something now.
Congratulations.
Something like
That's
that.
amazing.
It's a long time, And so it's a day-by-day practice, and that's what happened with the cigarettes. By the third day, I just thought, I can't be bothered. And I don't care if people smoke around me. I just threw away all the Camels and things that I had, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't miss it, and I've never missed alcohol, and I don't miss drugs.
That's great.
I just don't miss them. So, you know,
Yeah.
that was the way I did all of that, was having a project and doing the garden. Also the house, I did some more renovations and ended up putting an elevator in the tower that used to have a spiral staircase that Brett had built on the house, you know.
Yeah.
And, of course, when he died and we were dealing with that, Arkie and I had a lot of stuff we had to do. A hell of a lot of stuff we had to do about the studio and whether or not to try and turn it into what it is now,
Yeah.
the museum, or what was going to happen. And Arkie then came out from London, sold her place in London and bought a place at Palm Beach. That's why she sold the studio to the government, because she wanted the money to buy a house, and she really fancied living at Palm Beach because we'd spent a year there when she was little at Whale Beach, and she knew the area and she loved it. And then she married. We went to Bali for a holiday together with a friend of hers from London, an actress called Beattie Edney, who was a great mate of hers in London. And Beattie had never been to Bali, so she said, "Oh, can we go to Bali?" So off we went. And there we, just by absolute chance, stayed in this place in Legian that was owned by Jim, who suddenly popped up and said, "Oh, you're in my place." And I, "Oh, hi, Jim." And he courted Arkie like crazy, and they ended up getting briefly married because she died, you know, so quickly.
Yeah. I'm so incredibly sorry for your loss, Wendy, and I know this is a raw topic for you as well. I think, you know, for any parent, the idea of outliving your child is so completely unimaginable. And I wonder, I'm sure that there will be people who are listening to this who may have gone through something similar or hopefully haven't. Was there anything in the loss of your child that helped you or supported you, or was there anything that you could sort of cling to at that time?
Some of the aftermath was intensely things you had to do,
Yeah.
like probate. And I was an executor and having to deal with Arkie's stuff. And then so it was working. I was just working. And that's always been both a good and a bad thing, because you can bury yourself in that and not deal with the other thing, you know. But I think I knew myself well enough to be able to do that and realise that there was absolutely no point in subsiding into fear and being sorry for myself, or if that I was going to be alive and there were things I'd have to do to be able to take over, because, I mean, the idea really had been that Arkie would take over from me, because I'd been curating at the studio and keeping it all together while she was in London being an actress, which was fine. But then suddenly it was, you know, became a huge responsibility for her because she inherited a lot of stuff and, you know, the building and all of this kind of, and this idea about the museum came up, and it was weird because, you know, the whole thing was a bit weird, and it was actually all happening day by day, like a kind of tsunami, you know. And Arkie dying, that everything was like a tsunami again. There was just like, you had to do this. I think everybody goes mad when somebody dies. Everybody gets a bit weird, and people get very, very strange about what to do with the stuff.
Yeah.
I found that really difficult in her case.
Yeah.
With Brett, it was when we were dealing with the divorce, it was between us. And, of course, all the barrage of bloody expensive lawyers arguing the case of stuff, which is ludicrous. But, you know, if you can't work it out, you're going to get lawyers, and then that even gets worse. But, you know, and lawyers were involved in Arkie's thing too. But it was just like people that I thought I knew really well, got a bit crazy. And sometimes I think I may have made mistakes, that I didn't kind of refer to them and the right thing, even with Arkie's funeral, about who was sitting where and who was deemed to be more, that kind of hierarchy thing. I'm not having a funeral. They're the worst things you can have.
Right.
Because people just get crazy. But then was the thing that was going to be my responsibility from then on. And that included the responsibility of my own house and the garden and the studio.
So how is Wendy continuing to honour Brett's legacy today? We're going to hear all about that after the break. Hey guys, I want to throw a few numbers at you. The first one is 1 in 20. That's how many households in Australia have at least one person who has served our country. And chances are that could be your sister, your dad, your housemate, your neighbour, your partner, your friend. It could be you. And for many of those who have served, that service has had a long-lasting impact. Because the next number I have for you is 3. In 2023, 3 veterans died every 2 weeks by suicide. And that is a leading cause of death for ex-serving ADF members. I've got one more number, 1,555. That's how many Australian veterans were homeless on any given night during the 2021 census. So why am I telling you all of this? It's because you can do something to help put an end to these devastating numbers. Wounded Heroes Australia is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis service that's there any time of the day and night to answer the calls of veterans and their families in crisis and offer them an immediate lifeline. But they need your help to keep this going. Whether it's as little as $1 or even more, every donation from you can help to save the life of a veteran who dedicated theirs to protecting ours. Head to woundedheroes.org.au to make a real difference. Thank you. I want to talk about the gallery now. The Brett Whiteley Gallery's just reopened after a 2-year
Certainly has.
renovation. The exhibition is called Coming Home. What can you tell us about this new exhibition?
Well, it's called Coming Home deliberately because when we first started talking about what would be the first show, an exhibition, that would happen after the gallery reopened, and it was closed for longer than we expected. The previous exhibition had been the 60s. So it had been London and New York and, well, before that, Italy. So it had been the 60s. And they said, we'll do the 70s next. And then we started looking at the 70s and how prolific Brett had been during the 70s. I just said, no, it's crazy. We can't possibly, do it service by trying to cram everything into one space. So let's just do the coming home thing, which included Fiji, which we hadn't actually done before and which we don't have very much of left. I mean, two of the major pictures in the Fiji section were gifted by Patrick White to the gallery so we could get them back again, and a couple of others that we still had in the Whiteley collection, and put them together and make a nice little section. And that included the photograph of us coming off the boat when we arrived from Fiji, because we were greeted by a whole bunch of journalists because Brett had got thrown out because he had, and we had to get thrown out too, along with the mini moke and our mosquito nets and bright orange synthetic blankets and a mad mattress. I think we bought a mattress. Stuff that we'd had in the hut in Fiji, because that didn't have, the hut in Fiji had no running water. It had, I don't know where we got our water. We buy it in bottles, I guess. And another hut that you cooked on the ground, and the smoke went out the roof. That was it, and it was just divine. We were on a lagoon, and we owned a mini moke. That's all we owned, for which we'd drive to Suva or somewhere and do some shopping. Wow. I loved that kind of thing. So coming home from there was one. It was a shame about, because we actually intended to go back and build a house in Fiji. That was the idea.
Really?
Just get away from cities. Brett had freaked out in New York. It was too much for him.
I know that you took great care to preserve things as they were.
Oh, yeah.
Why was that so important to you to leave it?
It's
as
the whole
Brett
point
had?
of the studio. For people to be able to feel and see that. And we knew about this because we'd been to so many places in Europe and America that were dedicated to one artist. And it's increasingly becoming something that successful artists are doing for themselves, actually.
Okay, that's interesting.
Setting up foundations to look after their work because, you know, you can be an artist, you can have a whole collection, you die, and unless somebody's going to take care of all of that, it's going to go into storage somewhere, you know, and may never be seen again.
Yeah.
People go in and out of fashion, you know, it's like, it's weird. And when people buy a whole lot of stuff, I mean, Brett is still very popular, both on the market and at schools and things like that. And that's because he's so good.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I'm biased, but I'm quite judgmental. Judgmental. I'm quite hard on who I think is you know, worthy of attention as artists and things. And there's a lot of crap around that's, you know, I'm not terribly interested in supporting in any way whatsoever. And we've got the scholarship as well for young artists, and we've had some great ones who have won that.
You've spent over 30 years now, I guess, protecting and caring for Brett's legacy. To you, does that still feel like love, or does it feel like something else?
No, it feels like real love. It feels like real love, admiration, and when I say real love, I mean that's balanced by a lot of things. You know, there's good hair days and bad hair days in the love exercise. You know, you can love somebody intensely. You can also hate them intensely. And I'm a very firm believer in exactly that situation, in duality, for example. And I think Brett certainly was interested in duality, that you don't feel intense love without the capacity to feel also intense hatred.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to, you know, deal with those things, really. I mean, intense love, if it becomes obsession, can be dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the same way that I think kind of adoration is dangerous. You know, I've always been uncomfortable with the kind of accolades I get in speeches. You know, I think, oh, look. I just said the F word.
That's okay. It's a safe
That's all right.
space.
Everybody says it now. It's like common language. We practiced it in London in the 60s because it was considered to be rebellious and smart, you know.
There you go.
I heard Princess Margaret say it one day.
Ooh.
Oh, yes, very carefully she said it. Great accent and everything. Never didn't hear the Queen say it, but certainly she did.
I can't imagine it somehow. You know, there are so many people still discovering Brett's work now, young people.
Yeah, they
as
are.
well as those who've loved him for decades. What's something that you would really want people to know about Brett wherever they've come into knowing about him in their journey?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's lovely. I mean, you know, Ashley Wilson wrote a biography. Franny Hopkirk, his sister, wrote a biography. Blundell and I can't remember her name, they wrote a biography. There was a kind of bit of a hoo-ha about who was going to write biographies. As soon as Brett died, they were all out there, you know, agitating each other with publishers to try and be the first people. But people read that stuff, and when they read stuff about Brett, yeah, he's a fascinating character. But none of it would be interesting to anybody if he wasn't the artist he was, the painter he was. You know, he used to put painter on his passport, and he thought, oh, they think I'm a house painter. So then he'd put in brackets, he'd put painter and then artist in brackets afterwards, so they wouldn't think he was a house painter. So I mean, all of it's only because he is what he is as a painter, as an artist, you know, and the rest of it that goes with it, his character, his humour, everything, which you can see in the work. But, you know, his judgment about where to put stuff on a canvas is acute and unique and very much Brett Whiteley, and people love it or hate it. I don't think very many people are indifferent.
I'd love to know, what do you think if Brett could see everything that you've done in those years and how much you've protected and continued to draw new people to find his art? What do you think he would say about what his legacy looks like today?
Oh, I have no doubt he'd be very pleased about what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I think the legacy is Brett's work given by myself and his daughter.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, it is all, and this is true of the garden too, the house will be sold and then the money will go back into the same situation. Mm-hmm. So there'll be a lot of money involved in keeping it going. And the foundation and the Whiteley family then have made gifts to the building and everything else to keep it going. It's if that's not functioning, it will die. But it is functioning. It's functioning very well, and people are coming. And that's the other thing. You don't do any of this without an audience coming. So it's important that people come.
Yes.
And I look out at the garden in the morning. At the moment, I've got 2 sulphur-crested cockatoos that have decided to arrive on my balcony rail and eat the seeds I put out for the rainbow lorikeet. So there's a war going on, and I go out and I talk to them and I say, I don't want you here. I love you, but you can't come here. But they don't take any notice. And they're the ones that have been eating Brett's sculptures.
Oh, no.
The cockatoos are sulphur-crested. They've been picking the charcoal off the burnt match for years. And I know them. They're really naughty, really naughty. They'll shred everything. Everybody who has them in their garden knows about them.
Yeah.
But they're so amazing.
Yeah.
They're so clever.
They are, aren't they?
They're so gorgeous. So I'm torn. I go out and I have conversations with them. And they're getting very, they come right up to me now. But, but the little lorikeets loathe them. So, yeah, he'd be pleased. Oh. And he'd love the birds. We had birds on that veranda when we were first there because it was so falling down you couldn't go out. So we just closed it off with some chicken wire and had all kinds of birds, including rescued birds and birds we got and fantail pigeons, which Brett wanted, like Picasso, the white fantails. Which eventually went out and mixed up with the pigeons in the park. So there were these kind of motley crew of pigeons out in the park. And he made drawings, of them. So, birds. And when we were in New York, we had birds as well. He went out and bought some exotic birds that flew around in the kitchen and then would escape. And he'd be down in the street trying to find the birds. But, we've always had a lot of animals in our lives, mostly dogs.
Well, I'd love to sort of wrap up our chat today by asking you, Wendy, what does love look like for you today?
Oh, God. It looks like doing a podcast. And it's spelled LOVE, which I'm very grateful for because I thought, I hope it's not going to be one of those conversations where they talk about LUV.
Gosh, never.
Because I don't know what LUV is, really. No, I mean, I've just been intensely doing what I was doing. And people say, I say, listen, I view it as a job. I'm doing a job. It's my job. This is my job. This is what I do. So there's a lot of that in there. But, of course, I wouldn't be doing it without the love and respect for his work and memories and, the father of my beautiful daughter. I mean, the whole complexity of a relationship, which, fell apart at the end, but the connection was very close and very important and just very, very sad it's not still there. But he was prolific. Brett wasn't happy unless he was working. He was restless and agitated and bored very quickly if he wasn't working.
Well, aren't we lucky that he was such a hard worker because he's left us with so many beautiful
it's
works.
What made him feel whole. It's what made him feel important,
Wendy, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast on love stories. I'm so thrilled to have been your first.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, what a fascinating insight into not just one of Australia's greatest artists, but into the woman without whom he probably would never have created those iconic works. Wendy is such a breath of fresh air. I just love her take on love. I love her honesty and also her irreverence. And I feel like she just transported me back to that bohemian life that she, Brett and Arkie lived. Does anyone else feel like that? If you can get to Sydney, please make sure that Wendy's Secret Garden and the Brett Whiteley Gallery are on your list, because I promise you, you will not regret your time spent. If you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did, please follow us and share this episode with someone else who you think would get a kick out of it too. I'm Tiffany Dunk, and you've been listening to Love Stories from the Australian Women's Weekly. I'll be back next week with another story of love, and I hope to see you then. This episode is made in partnership with Wounded Heroes Australia, the only 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis service that helps veterans and their families in their hardest moments. This episode is supported by Vixen, Australian-made skincare powered by plant cell technology and designed to bring real simplicity back to skincare. Love has never been one size fits all, and these are the stories we love to tell at the Australian Women's Weekly. For over 90 years, we've been bringing you stories of hope, of heart and connection that reflect the world we live in. And now it's time for a new chapter with the Australian Women's Weekly Love Stories podcast.
This is an R Media podcast.